Ah, there you are, my friend. I've kept a place for you. Just here beside me. The log is warm still from the sun, and the fire dances low, not with any urgency, but the kind of flame that knows how to wait. Come, sit, let your shoulders soften. You've arrived at just the right moment. The last light of the day has slipped behind the battlements, leaving only the faint gold glow that lingers on old stone. It touches the flowers too. Look there, how the yellow petals of those marigolds catch the final rays like small lanterns in bloom. The garden is quiet now, save for the soft murmur of wind stirring through the blossoms and the occasional creak of the wood above us. Even the bees have gone still. They've curled up in their cups of pollen and petal, resting where they landed. The scent that greets you is gentle, warm bread from the fire, touched with a bit of honey crust. There's chamomile too, crushed underfoot on the path, its sleepy sweetness rising up to greet your senses. It's the sort of smell that settles behind the ribs, don't you think? Like the memory of being held, familiar, but not exact, ancient in the kindest way. Everyone here is quiet, but not from silence. It's a chosen quiet, the sort that grows between those who no longer need to speak to feel close. See them, these dear old companions, scattered like river stones around the fire. Their helms are resting on their knees or beside their boots. Shields leaned against stone walls like old friends catching their breath. Tonight, no one speaks of oaths or maps or the roads beyond the gate. No one carries a sword, not even out of habit. The only thing we pass around tonight is bread, roasted slow on sticks over the fire until the crust darkens just a little and the inside steams when torn. There's a bucket of berries too. Someone gathered them from the far side of the garden before the sun dipped low. Ripe, soft, and so sweet they almost don't seem real. You'll have some soon. No need to rush. Even the fire understands the mood. It crackles, yes, but softly. Its voice is a lullaby, low and tender. It casts a glow across the stone wall behind us, where ivy curls in sleepy patterns. If you look closely, you can see the shadows of the leaves trembling just slightly with the breeze. A flicker of light, a dance of shade, like a dream trying to remember itself. I've been here a while already, watching the sky change its clothes. It wore rose earlier, and then indigo, and now it's nearly velvet. One star has appeared, just above the tallest part of the wall there. Do you see it? No rush if you don't. It'll be there all night, blinking patiently, waiting for sleep to claim us. There's a slowness to this hour that I treasure. It's not the heaviness of fatigue. No, it's the grace of letting go, of setting down every name you had to carry all day, and picking up nothing in its place. You don't need to be anything here but here. That's all. That's enough. You're among those who understand that kind of rest. Those who know that peace is not always found in silence or solitude, but sometimes in shared warmth, in the sound of someone else breathing softly beside you, in the way we don't rush the night, in the fire's slow voice. And you, my dear companion, have brought nothing with you that needs to be fixed or explained. You've brought only yourself. That is more than welcome. That is cherished. Let your hands be empty now. Let your spine lean back. Let the garden hold you the way old places do. Without judgment, only memory. The stones beneath your feet have seen lifetimes pass, and still they rest. You may do the same. Soon we'll speak more. Or perhaps we won't. Perhaps we'll sit here and listen to the frogs in the far well, or the wood sighing as it cools. Perhaps we'll eat a little. Perhaps we'll share a word or two about a dream we had once, or a time the rain smelled like cinnamon. But for now, simply be beside me by the fire, with the chamomile and the stars, with the bread and the breath and the peace that asks nothing. You are safe here, and you are home. I'm glad you've settled in, my dear friend. Let me tell you about this place, not just in names or lines, but in feeling, in breath. For this garden, it holds a kind of hush that seeps into the bones, soft as wool and steady as stone. Look around. You'll see it in the way the walls lean in, not to guard, but to cradle. They are old, far older than I am, and worn smooth by time and seasons. No banners fly from them now. No horn calls echo from those corners. Only ivy climbs there, slow and stubborn, curling into every seam as if it's trying to stitch the stones together again. I like that about ivy. It makes no grand declarations. It simply stays. The ground beneath us is soft with moss and years. Each step here feels quieter than it should, like the earth has learned how to muffle even thought. The moss, it springs just a little beneath the soles, as if remembering the weight of those who've come before. Gardeners. Monks, perhaps. Children once. Who knows? There are no names left in this soil, but there is memory, and it welcomes you. Do you smell it? The sweet crush of green beneath the feet, the faint tang of something herbal, thyme maybe, or sage, hiding in the overgrowth, and above it all the unmistakable softness of blossoms fully open. Their fragrance isn't overwhelming, just present, like an old song hummed under one's breath, drifting out to greet the dusk. The flowers here bloom wild and untamed, reds and blues, sun yellows and violets, all mixed in as if planted by a child's dream rather than by order. They stretch toward the stars now, still open even though the sun has gone. Brave little things, aren't they? Even the smallest ones catch the starlight on their petals and hold it gently, like a secret. To the side, near the edge of the garden wall, there's a wooden door. See how it leans on its hinges. Not broken, just weary in that way. Old wood gets, it creaks now and then with the breeze, never quite closing, never quite opening. I've always liked it that way. Doors that do not demand, they merely suggest. And right in the heart of this place, the fire. Can you don't tambirth? Too tall, not too eager. Just enough flame to warm your palms and light the curve of a mug or the sheen of someone's hair. Its smoke rises lazily, carrying with it the scent of charred oak and bread crust. Look how the flames flicker, not hurried but content, like they've nowhere else to be. They cast long shadows on the garden walls, where ivy dances in silhouette and the wind makes puppets of the vines. All around the fire the traces of comfort gather. A few worn satchels, leather soft and faded from years of use, lean gently against a log. Buckets of berries sit tucked beside old mugs, their handles smooth from 100 grips. A bit of cloth draped here, a folded blanket there, as if the garden itself is preparing for a long, restful evening. Above us, the sky deepens into blue velvet, stars pricking through one by one with a quiet confidence. There's no rush to their arrival. They take their time, just as we do. That's the rhythm here, not of bells or commands, but of breath and bloom. If you listen, truly listen, you'll notice the air isn't silent. No, it's filled with small, sacred sounds. The chirp of a cricket in the tall grass, the rustle of leaves as something unseen. Maybe wind, maybe time passes through. A bee drunk on nectar hums itself to sleep inside a blossom. Even the fire has its voice, low whispering ever content. And there's sets the hush, not the kind of hush that demands quiet, not the hush of reverence or warning, but the hush that exists only when everything is exactly where it should be. The hush of a well-worn quilt drawn up to the chin, the hush of an old chapel when no one is inside, yet somehow it still sings. It's strange, perhaps, how deeply a place can speak without saying a word. But this garden, oh, it speaks volumes. Not in answers, no, but in invitation, in belonging. It asks nothing. It simply offers. You are welcome here, not for what you carry or what you've done, but for who you are, for being tired, for being kind, for being someone who still notices the color of firelight on petals. And if you feel the urge to sigh, then sigh. If your shoulders wish to lower, let them. There is no posture demanded here, no vigilance required. The walls are old, but they hold fast. The night is long, but gentle. The stars keep watch, not over duty, but over rest. You are not alone, not in this garden, not tonight. And if by chance the hush begins to settle into your chest, if it creeps in slowly behind your ribs and softens even the thoughts you haven't spoken, then that is the garden's doing. Let it. Let the moss cradle your memories. Let the breeze comb gently through the threads of your weariness. This is a place for peace, and you, my dear companion, you belong here, as surely as the ivy belongs to the wall, as surely as the flame belongs to the dark, as surely as sleep belongs to those who finally, mercifully stop searching. Stay as long as you wish. The garden asks for nothing more. You know, my friend, if you were to ask me what sort of knight I am these days, I might say, not much of one at all. At least, not in the old sense. My armor still fits, though I wear it more out of memory than need. And the sword, it rests quietly now, untouched beneath my cloak, like an old story with no urgency to be told. But I do still keep watch, not with sharp eyes or sharpened steel, but with a kind of listening, a gentler guard, attending. You see, I've walked many roads in my time. Not far always, just enough to see the changes in the fields from one season to the next. Just enough to greet a new grove or a weathered gate and feel the hush of a chapel too long empty. I never walked to conquer. I walked to notice and perhaps to remember. The weight I carry now is not burden but familiarity, like a wool cloak, worn, patched, but still warm where it counts. And that's what I bring with me here to this fire, to this garden, to you. My boots are scuffed and soft. My joints creak a little when I bend, but it is the kind of creaking that belongs to doors that still open. My breath is deeper than it used to be, and slower, as if every inhale is a promise not to rush. And when I speak, it's not to fill the air, but to share it, just as I do now. So, think, I've grown fond of that, of resting among those who do not need constant words, those who understand that silence is not empty. It is full of thought, of memory, of quiet welcome. Do you feel it too? That hush that forms between us, not as a gap, but as a shared resting place. That's the kind of silence I've come to treasure. I wasn't always this way. There was a time, as I suppose there is for many, when I believed that worth came only from action, that stillness was a kind of failure, that to pause was to fall behind. But the world taught me otherwise, not with harsh lessons, but with soft ones, with wild flowers growing between old stones, with the warmth of bread shared without occasion, with companions who knew how to sit and simply breathe beside me. The truth is, some of the most meaningful company I've kept never said much at all. We'd sit by the fire, much like this, and speak only when the stars seemed to listen in. I learned more from their silences than I ever did from speeches. And now, when I sit with someone new, I hope to offer the same, not stories, but presence. That is what I offer you now, dear heart. Not tales of glory or victory, but the deep, quiet joy of being known, not for deeds, but for simply being here. You see, I do not wear my armor tonight as protection. I wear it as memory. It still bears the dents and scrapes of long-past seasons, but I polish it now for the shine, not for the fight. It reflects the firelight well, don't you think? That's enough for me. Once, a child asked me if I was ever afraid when I wore this. I smiled then, and I smile now, remembering it. I told them, no armor ever truly takes away fear, but it teaches you how to carry it gently, like you would carry an ember. Carefully, close to the heart, so it warms, but doesn't burn. That's how I carry myself now, not to defend, but to remember the warmth. And tonight, in this quiet garden surrounded by the hush of old walls and the hum of fire, I feel no need for anything but this space, this peace, this breath between us. I've come to believe that some knights fight to protect lands, and others, perhaps quieter ones, stay to protect stillness. I think I've become one of those, a keeper of calm, a watcher of fires that do not rage but glow. Evenings like this remind me of what matters, that I am not needed elsewhere, that I am allowed at last to sit down, and not just sit, but stay, fully, deeply, without looking to the gate, without listening for the horn. And to have you beside me, to share in this moment, not as soldier to soldier, but soul to soul, that is something sacred. You are not just company, you are balm, a reminder that peace does not mean absence. It means presence, it means fullness, it means breathing at the same pace as the wind through the ivy. My voice is quieter now, perhaps, my pace slower, but that is not loss. That is choice, that is knowing what not to carry anymore. So tonight, as you rest with me here, know this: I am not weary, I am not wounded, I am simply content to sit with a friend whose heart understands this moment, content to feel the weight of my armor, not as defense but as history, content to hear the fire hum and the stars appear one by one without needing to name them. I have walked many roads, yes, but none quite like this moment with you beside me, and if I never move from this spot again, I would not mind, for here in this garden, with your breath near mine, and the night laid gently across our shoulders, I feel truly at peace. Let me tell you something soft, my friend, something not found in books or etched into stone. Just a little tale passed by breath and time. It's about this garden and how it came to be the quiet place you see now. A place of wild flowers and firelight, of laughter kept low and memories stored like herbs in a clay jar, dry, delicate, and still fragrant with life. You see, once, this garden was not so peaceful. No, don't worry, not unkind, just different. Long ago it was a training yard. These flagstones under our feet once rang with the rhythm of practice steps, the call of old instructors with dusty cloaks and louder voices than they needed. Shields clattered here, and young arms strained to hold their blades steady. There was shouting then. The purposeful kind, not anger, just instruction, intensity, intent. I was young then too, not quite so creased at the eyes. I came to this courtyard thinking it would shape me into something formidable, and in its way it did, but not for the reasons I expected, not because of the drills or the bruises or the long hours beneath the sun. What changed me was something gentler, something that happened in between. You see, after the training, when the sweat had dried and the sun had dipped, and no one shouted anymore, I would linger. Others would hurry off to their chambers or the kitchens, but I stayed, sat right there, on that same worn bench behind you, where the lichen now grows along the edge. Back then, it was bare stone, still warm from the sun. And in that quiet, that rare, unclaimed quiet, I began to hear the garden itself. There were always a few weeds, even when the grounds were trimmed. A few brave wildflowers would bloom where the stones gave way to earth. The kind no one planted, the kind that simply insisted on living. I grew fond of them. Their small colors, their defiance. One evening, I brought a crust of bread and a stick. Nothing fancy, just something to warm over a coal left from the cook's fire. I sat there, tired in that way that settles deep, but doesn't ache, and roasted it slowly, turned it over until the outside crisped, and the inside turned soft again. I remember biting into it, steam still rising, and thinking, this is enough. This quiet, this warmth, this moment. It was a kind of peace I hadn't expected to find in a place built for discipline. That night, I began a ritual I still keep. One night each week, when the moon was high and no duties pressed, I would come here alone. I would roast a bit of bread, sit back against the stone, and say the names of those I'd met that week. Not aloud, no, but in the heart. Those I'd trained beside, those who had passed through the gates, those whose stories had brushed briefly against mine. And that, my dear friend, became the quest. Not for glory, not for rank, but for remembrance. Not all names find their way onto stone, you know. Not every soul is recorded in ledgers or sung of in taverns, but in this garden, I made room for them. I remembered their laughs, the way they held their cups, the jokes they told too often. I let them live a little longer by speaking their memory into the quiet air, just softly, just to the fire. That was enough. The garden changed, over time. When the castle no longer needed a training yard, the ground softened, the stone cracked, and the flowers returned, not in rows or beds, just wherever they pleased. The moss came back, gentle as dusk. The wooden door, once kept firm and proper, began to lean, and I, older now, found I loved it more with every passing year. Less sharp, more soft, more itself. So that Sep's what this place became, my refuge. Not because it was hidden, but because it was kind. Not because it was silent, but because it listened. And now, I share it with you. This evening, our quest is simple. You see that stick beside the fire. Take it. There's bread in that cloth bundle by your knee. Thick, a little coarse but hearty. Pierce it gently like this. Hold it just over the flame, close enough to warm but not to scorch. Let it turn. Let it take its time, like everything good. While it cooks, I invite you, no, I welcome you, to join in this old ritual of mine. If there's a name resting on your heart, speak it quietly inside yourself. It doesn't need to be explained. It doesn't need to be mourned, just remembered, even if only for the length of a breath, even if it's the name of a place, or a feeling, or the version of yourself who arrived here tonight. This fire does not judge. It receives, it holds, it keeps warm even the softest memories. Let me show you something else. Here beneath this folded cloth, I keep a few herbs tucked in from the far side of the garden. Lavender, mostly. A little mint, crushed into the palm. They release such gentle scent, not perfumed, just honest. We can press a bit into the crust once your bread is done. It's small, but it changes everything, as memory so often does. You might think this little ceremony strange for a night, but I've come to believe we are more than what we carry on our backs. More than mail and metal and stories told in taverns. We are made just as much of quiet rituals, of bread roasted in twilight, of remembering names that no one else kept, of giving the silence something to hold. And tonight, I hope to pass that on to you. Not as a lesson, not even as a story, but as an offering, a thread in the weave. Let this fire remember with you. Let the scent of mint and ash and warm grains settle into your cloak. Let the garden receive your quiet and give you one in return. That is the quest tonight. That is all. And in this stillness, I think it is enough. There's a certain hour, my dear friend, just after the sky deepens into blue velvet, but before the fire burns down to coals, when stories begin to rise from the silence as naturally as mist from a warm field. You'll know it when you feel it. The air shifts, the hush doesn't disappear, but softens into something expectant, not demanding. No, never that, but ready, as though the night itself has drawn a little closer, wishing to listen. That stips the hour we find ourselves in now. Around the fire, our circle has drawn in, not out of cold, but closeness. Cloaks are wrapped a bit tighter. Mugs are cradled with both hands, and one by one the old friends begin to speak. Not in loud voices, not in declarations, but in tones worn smooth by years, voices like river stones, shaped by use and time and care. The first to speak is Tumas, sitting across from you with his legs stretched long and a garland of yarrow tucked behind one ear for reasons no one ever asks. He leans back against his shield, which he now uses more often as a seat than a barrier, and stares into the fire as though remembering the first flame ever kindled. I saw snow fall on armor once, he says, after a long, contented pause. Not mine. I was too young then, but I remember the sound it made, not on the ground, not in the air, but on the metal, a tapping so soft. It sounded like the sky trying to speak gently to something it didn't understand. He smiles, eyes distant. I thought, even steel deserves gentleness. And just like that, no one replies. No one needs to. The thought lands and it lingers, held tenderly between us like something warm passed from hand to hand. After a while, Maera, whose fingers are always moving, twisting grass into loops or smoothing linen out of habit, begins to hum. It's not a song for performance. It's the kind of tune you hum when shelling peas, or rocking a child, or walking alone among tall grass. A melody shaped by hands, not lips. It sounds like the place she came from, though none of us have ever been there. A place with clear skies and woven baskets and rivers that never forget your name. When she finishes, no one claps, but everyone sighs, the kind of sigh that says thank you without words. And then, from the shadowed side of the fire, Aldwin passes you something, wrapped in linen, still warm, a honeyed apple, roasted until soft. He doesn't speak, just gives a little nod, that familiar lopsided smile of his, and leans back, closing his eyes as if that gesture, simple and quiet, said all he meant to say. You'll find in time that silence can speak as well as stories. My eyes wander then. They often do during moments like this, not away from the circle, but into the little things, the gleam of firelight on polished shield rims, the way the ivy along the wall shivers just slightly in the breeze, casting a lacework of shadow onto the stone, the low murmur of someone exhaling through their nose, not in boredom but peace. And then I see it, just by your foot. Nestled between two stones there blooms a single red flower, not grand, not bright enough to demand attention, but unmistakable. Red, deep as berries, petals slightly curled from the night air. It's grown up between the flagstones without being invited, but also without apology, just there, entirely itself. I lean a little toward you and smile. Do you see her? I whisper. That one there. You follow my gaze, and when your eyes find the bloom, I nod. She reminds me of someone kind, I say softly, not for how she looked or what she said, but for the way she never asked anything of anyone, and still gave more than most ever could. I don't say more. Sometimes the memory of a person lives better in a few words than in a story. Sometimes just pointing to a flower and sharing the breath that rose with the thought is enough. Others begin to share as the fire burns low and turns to amber. Jarrett, with his voice like worn leather, tells of the first time he heard music played on a bone flute, and how the sound of it made him feel something he didn't just know how to name. He still doesn't est. It wasn't sadness. Not quite, he murmurs. He clears his throat, then says no more, but the silence that follows honors him, quietly wrapping around his words like moss around a stone. Someone chuckles then, not loudly, just enough to ripple the hush, and offers a memory about falling asleep in a hay cart once, waking up 2 towns past their destination. Laughter bubbles gently through the group, soft and shared, not rowdy, just glad. You and I, we sit together through it all. I don't tell you a long tale tonight, not because I haven't any, but because this moment feels full already, not with noise, but with presence. Instead, I speak to you in a tone just above breath. There's something lovely, I murmur, about not having to carry the moment alone, about letting the evening pass between many hands, like passing a cup around the circle, warm, full, and never rushed. A few fireflies drift past us, blinking slowly, as if uncertain whether to stay or go. One lands on the rim of your mug for a breath's time, then rises again, tiny lantern bearing no burden but light. I glance around the garden, noting how the stones look softer by firelight, how the shadows lengthen but never frighten, how everyone here has leaned just slightly inward, not toward the flame but toward each other, as if drawn not by heat, but by the gravity of quiet fellowship. There is no quest tonight, no lesson, no great unraveling, only a series of gentle discoveries, the kind you don't go seeking, but which rise naturally when you make space for them, like mushrooms after rain, like memories in silence, like the smile that forms on your face before you realize it's there. That's what this circle is, my friend. It's not a gathering of tales. It's a gathering of noticing. And that, in the end, is all we ever needed. So stay close. Let the stories float as they will. Eat the apple, if you like. Or just hold it. Let its warmth pass into your fingers. Rest your feet near the fire's edge. Watch the stars join us, one by one. And if your own story wishes to rise, even if it's only a single sentence long, or just a feeling that cannot name itself, let it breathe here with us. No one will interrupt, no one will fix or question. It will be seen. That will be enough. Because tonight in this garden we've all remembered something gentle. Not because we chased it, but because we were still enough to notice when it arrived. You know, my dear friend, I've been thinking tonight, not of the past as a road behind, but as a garden in full bloom. Not something I've left, but something I've grown through. Slowly, quietly, like ivy, winding where it pleases, never in haste. I used to believe growing older meant distance from who I once was, a fading of strength, of certainty. But now, seated here by the fire with my hands wrapped around a warm mug and your breath nearby, I know it's not distance at all. It's depth, a deepening, a widening of the self, like a well dug not for speed but for truth. A serial. No longer chase what I once did, not because I cannot, but because I no longer need to. There is a different kind of power in stillness, a strength that does not shout, but listens. I have learned to measure a life not in battles weathered or distances marched, but in the moments where I've truly rested, sat by a hearth with companions, and known in my bones that nothing needed to be earned, that nothing would be taken from me if I simply was. I remember not long ago, yet far enough, watching a much younger knight oil their blade until it gleamed like glass. They did not speak, only worked, eyes sharp, motions precise. I saw in them a hunger I recognized, a fire I once carried too close to my heart. Only sat nearby, sewing the hem of my cloak, where it had frayed from years of use. And in that silence, something passed between us. They glanced once at my needlework, then at the worn leather of my boots, then back at their blade. I never told them what I saw in that moment, but I think they understood. There is wisdom, you see, not in putting down the sword from fear, but from choice. To say, I have held this long enough, now I will hold something else. Small, a cup, a thread, a memory, even a silence cradled like an ember. You begin to notice the small things, after enough nights like this one, the way laughter takes its time, among friends who know each other well. How a story doesn't need a twist to be worth telling. Only truth and breath, the beauty of a repaired cloak, where the stitching shows, not to hide the tear, but to mark where care stepped in. That sips what peace looks like to me now. Not perfection, not stillness without sound, but a tapestry where every frayed edge was mended by someone who stayed. I think often about the fire, not just this one here before us, though she is a dear friend tonight, but fire in its oldest form, the kind that kept the first stories, the kind that didn't burn to consume but to warm. You hear it differently when everyone falls quiet. Listen with me now, just for a moment. There, that soft crackle, the way it shifts and sighs, never in rhythm, always just as it wants, the way it catches the edge of a log and draws out the sap, the tiny hiss, like the wood itself is whispering its past. Trees hold memories too, you know. They carry seasons within them, rings of rain and sun and stillness, much like us. And in this garden, where no swords are drawn, and the only marks left are footprints in moss, I feel those seasons in myself. Do you? Do you feel how time has shaped you? Not with a chisel, but with water, the way rain carves stone slowly, the way wind teaches trees how to bend, the way silence, not emptiness, teaches us how to listen without fear. There is a calm that only comes from choosing to be here, to stay, to be present, to rest without apology. And you, my friend, I see it in you now, that same stillness, that same gentle strength. It lives in the way you hold your breath when the fire pops, just slightly, in the way you look toward the stars, not to measure distance but to wonder, in the way your shoulders have softened since you arrived, no longer braced against the world. You belong to the hush now, to the peace that speaks without needing words. Thus I'm glad you came. Truly, you've added something to the night, not in sound or deed, but in presence, in being beside me and letting the quiet stretch between us without shame. That is rare, you know, to be with someone and not need to fill the space, to let the silence feel full, not awkward. That is something I have come to treasure most in these later years. Not answers, not certainties, but company that feels like warmth wrapped in wool. Even the stars above us seem to agree. See how they've gathered, one by one, without fanfare. They don't rush in. They don't arrive all at once. They keep pace with us, gentle, steady, honest. And I think perhaps that's what growing in calm truly means. To no longer rush to light every torch at once. To no longer fear the dark between glows. To trust that each small ember, a laugh, a breath, a glance, is enough to warm the soul. I've been learning too how to thank without speaking, to close my eyes for a breath, and let gratitude rise like steam, to feel it in my bones when someone shares the night with me, as you do now. It sups a gift, you know, to sit here, to let the cloak fall around our shoulders and not ask it to do more than cover, to sip something warm and not need it to fix anything, to watch the fire fade not with sadness, but with acceptance, knowing it has done what it came to do, and to speak only when the words rise gently from the heart, not pushed, not demanded, just offered. So let me offer this to you now, dear companion. Thank you, not for anything you did, but for your presence, for your breath beside mine, for your silence shared, for your willingness to be here, fully, truly, without pretense. If peace has a shape, it is not a fortress. It is not an oath or a flag. It is two souls sitting quietly beside a fire, remembering that they are more than what they've carried. You are more than what you carried. And I am glad to have set my armor aside tonight, if only to remind you and myself that there is another way to be strong. Let us stay here a while longer. Let the fire speak, and the stars keep watch, and our hearts, once heavy with doing, grow light with simply being. The hush has deepened now, hasn't it? Gently, almost imperceptibly, like a thick woolen blanket being drawn up across the shoulders of the night. One by one, the others have given in to rest. Thomas, with his yarrow crown now askew, breathes steadily beside the old bench, his shield tipped like a curled cat beside him. Mara's braid has slipped over her shoulder, her hand still loosely curled around a small bundle of herbs she meant to press between pages. Even Aldwin, who rarely sleeps until the coals are gray, has let his chin drop to his chest, snoring faintly through a crooked smile. Their peace hums low, like a song with no words. And you, my dear friend, are still here beside me, still breathing softly, your eyes half-lidded, your presence gentle as the dusk. There's no need to rush into sleep. You know, no bell will ring, no duties wait. This moment is yours to linger in, as long as you like steeping tea in warm water, not hurried, not forced, just infusing. The fire is nearly quiet now, just the occasional crackle as it settles further into its embers. Its glow is lower, but no less kind. It flickers across the stone wall and paints everything in a soft amber hush. The cloaks, the mugs, the sleeping shoulders of old friends who have given themselves permission to simply be above us. The stars have spread out fully, as if they too have chosen this garden to rest over. One or two fall slowly across the sky now and then, not with urgency, but with elegance, like threads of silver being drawn gently through velvet. The flowers, too, have not yet closed their petals. See how they sway in the breeze, slow, unbothered. They do not sleep in the way we do, not completely, but they rest all the same. Their rhythm is their own, and it matches the hush of the fire and the drift of the wind and the softened breath of this quiet company. It's but a rare kind of stillness. This, not the silence of emptiness, but of fullness, a silence earned by being fully present, a rest that comes not from collapse, but from completion. It's a kind of arriving, not to a place, but to a peace. And I've found, over the years, that there is something sacred in this hour. When the voices have quieted, when the stories have been told, when no one is watching the gate, it's here, in the lull, in the slowness, that we truly know one another, not by name or deed, but by breath, by being, by the shared trust of stillness. There's something I've always loved about watching others sleep, not in the way of a watcher or a sentinel. No, that's long behind me. But in the way one might sit beside a stream and marvel that it flows whether or not you're looking, that it trusts the earth to carry it, that it gives itself fully to rest and movement at once. Each face in this circle carries so many years, so many meals and footsteps and glances across fires like this one. And yet here they are, soft again, weightless. Return to something earlier, more essential. I imagine sometimes that we are all children again in sleep, that beneath every weathered brow and calloused hand there is a small breathing core that never stopped yearning for warmth and kindness and the safety of being held. And I suppose, in our own way, that's what we offer one another here, not with arms, not with words, but simply by staying, by not going, by sitting beside each other as the night stretches long and tender. It stirs a quiet vow, this sharing of stillness. Then you, my friend, you honor me with it, to sit beside me as the hush grows thick, as the stars wheel overhead, as the fire softens and the night folds in. It means more than I can say aloud. You've brought no sword, you've spoken no oath, but you are here, and that is everything. You are the kind of presence the world rarely notices. Gentle, steady, open-hearted. You listen not just with your ears, but with your being, and I feel it. Truly, I do, just as I feel the warmth of the earth beneath this moss, just as I hear the breath of ivy shifting on the stone. It's dead strange, isn't it? How stillness has a way of expanding things. How quiet makes space, not just around us, but within us. In this hour, I feel more room in myself, room for gratitude, the thing stow. Wonder, for the thought that peace is not something far off, but something already here, waiting patiently beneath the noise. If you close your eyes, just for a while, you may feel it too. The way your weight is welcomed by the earth. The way your breath slows, without being told. The way the cool night air wraps around your shoulders like a well-worn shawl. No one here needs you to be anything but you. No proving, no explaining, no remembering to hold anything. Let your thoughts drift like petals on a still pond. Let them pass without chasing. Let them soften and fade and rest. You've earned this quiet, not through toil or trial, but through kindness, through presence, through choosing to be still. So let your eyes close, if they wish to, or keep them open a little longer, watching the glow as it flickers lower. Let the warmth of the fire mingle with the cool breath of night, and know you are exactly where you need to be, right here, beside me, among those who know how to rest with open hearts. Let us lay ways, let us stay a while longer together, and if sleep comes, let it take you gently, the way ivy climbs a wall, slowly, patiently, with no need for force. There is nothing left to do now, no one left to become. Just stillness, only this breath, only this circle of quiet holding you, holding us all. You are safe, you are seen, you are held, and in this garden of peace, this soft hour between stories and dreams, you are home.